45th Board of Tourism meeting. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome again. We've approved the minutes from the 28th March meeting. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Treasurer's report.
Okay, so I passed around 3 claims for you to sign. We have the claim for the Town of Hanover's, our contribution to that website, the Madison Riverfest, our sponsorship for the 2022 event, and then the claim for marketing and the first quarter payment for VMI contract. So the VMI claim is $113,841.32. Riverfest is $40,000, and the Town of Hanover is $20,849.50. If someone wants to approve those, then I'll give you our balances and.
I'll motion to approve claims as presented.
I'll second.
Any question? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye. And these will be the first claims that run through the auditor's office, so that's why that paper went around. That's the claim form from the auditor's office that we'll submit to them. So, our operations account, $1,511.23. Our money market account, $18,812.59. We completed the paperwork to request the funds from that annuity investment. Rini signed that paper a couple weeks ago after our last meeting. We were expecting a check somewhere around $185,986.39 that has already been processed. So once we get that, we will deposit and then transfer into the auditor's office and be able to close out these 2 accounts at that time. Innkeeper's tax for March was $33,900.30. Obviously, if you look at the previous Marches, that's much higher than normal. So for the first quarter this year, we're at $100,940.43. And then the last page of the report I gave you, this is the report that we get from the auditor's office that shows our balances, and this is prior to any claims. So this was after we made the adjustments of the transfers for the additional claims, or additional VMI contract and marketing, and then the other things that we had budgeted for. So, to give you an idea of where we're at. I'll have some more clarification on that report next month once I meet with Kirsten and Heather down there to understand revenues and what's what's in there, what's not in there. So, like we're showing under that disbursements, that's where the first couple months of innkeeper's tax was paid out to us as opposed to staying in there, and then the March stayed in there. So I'll have some more info for you on how to read that a little easier. That's it.
To accept the treasurer's report.
So moved.
Second. Any other questions? Discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Do that. Getting that taken care of. Lucy?
Thank you. I just have a few items to bring you up to date with what VMI is working on. I emailed this to you, so if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to let me know. The strategic planning continues. The staff and board are working with our group facilitator to finish up that plan and have our timelines developed. Staffing, we have begun the search for executive director. The board and staff are reviewing applications. We hope to set up interviews soon. Those could possibly begin in the first 2 weeks of May. timeline-wise, we could have someone in place in June. Let's see, visitor center attendance in March, we have 1,152 people, and a total for 2022 is 3,184. We were recently closed for Easter, but we've been open every day beyond that. Our tourism partners, Chautauqua, there's a subcommittee of VMI that's been meeting with the volunteer representatives with them, and in April we met twice to work on resolutions to the organization of that event so we can move it forward. Until then, work for the event continues to operate very smoothly, even though these discussions we haven't come up with a resolution yet. The Lanier Mansion, I just learned this fact. It is the #1 most visited Indiana State Historical Site in Indiana. There's 13 throughout the state. 12, thank you, numbers person. And we get the highest visitation at Lanier. So that's a very valued partnership between VMI and Lanier, and we've nurtured that. We met with the director, and she's been involved in meeting with, she'll be at our next meeting tomorrow morning. So I met with her to discuss, because rumor mills had it that we were relocating beyond the visitor center where we're currently at, and I just wanted to reassure her that VMI would continue their commitment to Lanier, no matter how the other discussion turns out. VMI staff and board met with Economic Development Director Tony Steinhardt about tourism, its value and partnership with the City of Madison. We also had a great conversation with the mayor about working together as it relates to tourism this past month. The VMI board and staff co-hosted and assisted with a visitation from city representatives from Troy, Ohio and Muncie, Indiana. That was initiated by both those cities reaching out, wanting to discuss and observe our areas of economic development in Madison and Jefferson County. And so Sarah and I went and represented tourism. Tourism Alliance, we went to the last meeting this past month, and we look forward to hearing the report today. And as a reminder, we still need someone to represent Board of Tourism on the VMI Board of Directors. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Sarah?
Hi there. Sent you guys everything. Hopefully, if you have any questions, you can get to me today. If not, just email me a comment. We implemented a photo contest for National Travel and Tourism Week, which is always the first week of May. And it'll be the 1st to the 7th this year. But the U.S. Travel Association always puts together an asset package that anybody across the U.S. can use. And so, they give you everything from sample proclamations to declaring it that week for the mayor, PR, social media assets and whatnot. So we decided to actually implement a photo contest with that and use the CrowdRiff platform as a way for people to enter. So we have, as of, this was when I gave you my report, we have 120 assets that were given to us to use as rights. So not only are they submitting their picture to win, they're also giving us the rights to use in marketing. So we're excited about that, and it's growing every day. They use the hashtag YesMadison that we've been using when we ask them to give us the rights, they respond with that YesMadison for that. But we plan to give them, that winner, $100 in chamber cash to try to bring back to the community and spend. And that winning photo will for sure make it into the guide. But I'm sure we're already seeing the pictures coming in, and we know that we'll be using lots more that people are giving us the rights to. So it's catching on. We have a whole content plan going on for that's going out. So we're excited about that. That ends on May 8th. We also are rolling out a social media video series. We found that with having the extra help with with, I say extra help, but with Hannah, we are trying to be more engaging with our tourism partners, and so we are rolling out a social media video series, one to show them the things that we can do, but two, to be able, maybe somebody isn't as keen on the idea of us just popping in live, but maybe they're okay with us doing a behind the scenes kind of thing, watching somebody make something, or dipping the chocolate, or unboxing some, Christmas stuff, or whatever it might be. So we're getting ready to roll that out. And plus, the third option would be, we're going to do sneak peeks on the itineraries. We have made all those new itineraries for the new website. So we want to be able to do like a little sneak peek of each of the itineraries that we've created. So, so that's something that's we're getting ready to roll out. This coming Thursday, Hannah and I were asked to be keynote speakers for the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail. This whole time that we've been working with the Ohio River Recreational Trail, which is now the Ohio River Way, they have really looked at Madison as a resource for how other communities should be doing things, whether it be a website or just how we function with events or whatnot. So, so surprisingly, out of that, they asked us to talk about Madison and our tourism efforts, our visitor experience, as well as events and how that happens. So that's coming up this Thursday. Very honored. It is a national webinar, and so we plan to knock them down. Coming up in the next couple weeks, we will also be hosting the college tour for Hanover. It's a TV episode called the College Tour for Hanover College, and so it's a pretty robust episode that they do for colleges around the nation, and so we will be assisting them with B-roll footage and any other kind of footage that we've collected over the years, even the footage that I recently acquired from an artist. So that's exciting to see that come along. We've met with the Eagle Cotton Mill about some social media collaboration. Riverfest marketing is heating up. We've sat and talked about our strategy for the motor trail and what that's going to look like, and we're starting to put together that plan. Nights before Christmas is the 40th anniversary, and we are rocking and rolling with that as well. And many other things. We have a lot of blogs that we're doing, which is picking up a lot of engagement, not just on our website, but within our social media that we're promoting it on. So that's really good. Otherwise, just keeping up with everything and some of the other executive director duties that we're filling in for, and just excited about the season change. Thank you.
I think Dan's going to go first, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah.
First, I'd like to start with a big thank you to the board. I know Michael and I have both found this to be a just really fun, challenging, and ultimately we feel like very successful project that we've been working on. We actually started about a year ago in March with our initial meeting where we just brought everybody together to just kind of get the lay of the land, really, more than anything, with all these organizations. And so we have come full circle back around to where we are today to present you with a report of our findings and, so share some of the work that we've been doing along the way, and really kind of set the stage for where we might go in the future, or where we would suggest that we go in the future. But for me personally, this has also been very much a homecoming. I haven't spent a whole lot of time in Madison since high school, actually. And so coming back here, Madison has been extremely embracing to me. A lot of the people that were in that group are in this room now, and a lot of that is thanks to them. And I've really enjoyed the whole thing. So without further ado, we can talk a little bit about what we're going to do in this report. So we're going to talk about a number of things here, starting with the website that we put together at the very beginning of the process and have used throughout and will continue to use in the future. We're going to talk about our brand process, where from a marketing point of view, we did a number of exercises that we use to develop brand. What are we about? What do we believe? all kinds of elements that I'll go through here with you soon. Brand objectives and matching KPIs, key performance indicators are very important because they help you measure your success or your failure at different initiatives that you're doing. And so as a group, we went through and agreed on a number of KPIs that we can use to both be held accountable for, but also to be recognized for our success as we move forward. We did persona descriptions. A lot of the data from that came from Visit Madison's data, and they were very forthcoming with that to help us do it. Our brand messaging, so we did come up with a tagline and some messaging that we'll share with you today. Our strategic vision for the Alliance moving forward. What can we do to propel this into the future? Where can we capitalize on things that we've built the foundation for so far? So we'll talk about that a little bit. Our network map to local tourism and the ecosystem. We'll walk through that. That's a little more complicated than I can explain right now. Our action plan moving forward, and then future staffing and or consulting needs that we would suggest that you consider as we move forward as well. So we can start off here and talk a little bit about the website. So one of the very first things that we did even before we met was to develop a website that would serve as a basis, a touchstone for everyone, so that we could both publish our work there along the way. So on the website can be found all the different exercises that we did throughout the branding campaign, and then moving into the future with some of our projections that Michael will share with you about things that we would suggest for the future. All of that resides on the site. So we wanted a central repository, a place where people could put their own information out there as well, but also a place where anyone can access it and see what the other groups are doing. So touching back with this from time to time is important. So we've got the central platform where we can share our ideas and our resources. And that obviously continues as the group moves forward. With our brand process, this was an interesting exercise because we had a lot of people from different organizations that obviously have different agendas, from music to history to everything in between, arts, education. All of these people from these different walks of life and tourism backgrounds in Madison, we wanted to bring together. And that's why we called it an alliance, because this is really a group working together to kind of stand on each other's shoulders, to build things as we move forward in Madison. But the first thing that we needed to do was kind of understand who we are. Who are we as a group in Madison? So we wanted to do some marketplace analysis about our brand as Jefferson County and Madison is concerned. So we start with trust. And what you're going to find in some of these lists that I have here are from this group exercise. What are the elements of trust that people can rely on with the Madison Jefferson County brand? Hospitality, safety, good food, unique but also convenient, family-oriented, food and shopping, personal and unique parks. Parks are available. Helpful Hoosiers, just as an idea or a concept. Professional opportunities. You can have a long visit here and actually get a job and work here and have a family and have a professional future here. We don't want to forget that as we go forward. So professional opportunities. We can trust that, or people that come here can trust that we will be friendly. We're nice people. We care about each other here. And then we get into elements of quality. So again, as you build a brand, you want to kind of look at these different ideas about your brand to get a lay of the land for where you're going to go forward with messaging. So on the side of quality, we're looking at Jefferson County is a great place to be, good accessibility, good walking experiences, transportation. We established business quality with quality output. We're authentic. That always came back again and again. That Madison is a very authentic place. That this is not something that you're going to find just anywhere, with all the opportunities that we have to have fun, to have a good time here. So all businesses can benefit from keystone qualities of Jefferson County community collaboration. We're all in this together, basically, is what we're saying here. If you look at Madison's Main Street, and shops and the restaurants and bars and opportunities for business just in that corridor, not to mention outside of that as we get into manufacturing and other kinds of opportunities here. I think we all realize, and as a group we agreed, that we all realize that we're in this together and that all these ships rise together with the tide. Businesses take ownership of the entire town. Businesses and families trust the knowledge of stakeholders, meaning that if you roll up to somebody on the street and you have a question about their particular business or their area of expertise, be it history or art or otherwise, you can trust that the stakeholders in those areas are going to be able to speak very knowledgeably about what it is that they're doing. Experiences can be counted on. Home away from home, surrounded by friends, community pride. So these are the quality of the experience that people would have as a brand when they think about Madison or Jefferson County. Exclusiveness. So what makes us exclusive? What's different about us than other places? Scenic byway sites to visit, unique and diverse collection of experiences are available here. The National Historic Landmark District is here, one of the largest, I think the largest in the country, in fact. Not going to find that anywhere else. One of 3 pilot Main Street projects, Cultural and Arts Resource District, Clifty Park, Indiana's Music City, natural resources, hike, bike, all of the above there. Strong and youthful arts community with passion about community not found in other places. And I think that passion really shows, especially in the group as we were together. I think that's the thing that really was the glue that held the entire alliance together from the start. Because really, as we came into it, I think that some of us were a little bit leery about what we were all about, what's the agenda here, what we're trying to get to. What we're trying to get to is to bring everybody to work together, ultimately. But you come to something like that with certain thoughts or expectations that you have to get past. Another step that we took was to do some competitive analysis, and on the website there are several documents about the different areas that we ranked ourselves with. But the first thing was to kind of agree on what are some similar communities that we can consider competitors to Madison and Jefferson County. And with these we came up with Brown County, Southern Indiana, Louisville, French Lick, Columbus, Bardstown, Oxford, Ohio, and Jefferson County. We being Jefferson County, of course. We went through many different areas to kind of rank ourselves against others. We were 4th in arts, 4th in entertainment, 1st in shopping, 5th in food experiences, 1st in things to do, 7th in small town experiences and family, 2nd in outdoor experiences, and 1st in historic architecture. If you break all that down against the scores of all these other places that we were looking at, overall we wound up 1st on the list. And I think we all kind of came to the room understanding that it was likely that that's where we were going to be. Because Madison has so many amenities and things to do here that others just can't cover, either from topography to experience to the way that we treat each other here and treat outsiders. Again, as we got into the brand process, we started looking at values. What as a brand is Madison and Jefferson County? What do we value? Of course, from a tourism perspective. So history and sustainability and return visits over generations. And something that we really want to capitalize moving forward on is that idea of multi-generational tourism in Madison, keeping people coming back. Tradition, consistency, authentic fun. It's safe and easy to manage Madison. There's connection here that's going to instantly happen as you go into our shops and restaurants and other venues. And hospitality. We have a real hospitality value here. Beliefs. What do we believe in? And we really got some interesting answers here from everyone. So, our beliefs vary, but we all agreed on all of these. We believe that we provide a unique experience attracting tourists for repeat visits for generations to come. We believe that visitors should leave Madison feeling that they want to return because their time here was so much fun. Fun was a big aspect here on all fronts. It was something that we could really all agree on, whether you're looking at a historical experience here or music or arts or otherwise. We always came back to that fun aspect of what was happening here. We believe that we should provide uncommon hospitality and inclusive connections to visitors. I think that says a lot about who we are. We believe that we're America's hometown, and we kind of kept coming back to that hometown feel, that hometown idea, that we all have this hometown experience that In Madison, we don't really take that for granted because we understand that visitors, as they come in, often comment that, wow, I wish this was my hometown. Or I get such a great hometown feeling from what's going on here. So, another thing that we focused on quite a bit. We make people comfortable, and we're not pretentious. You can come here, all walks of life are welcome in Madison, and you're all going to have the same kind of experience with us. So then we get into the brand purpose. What is the purpose of our brand? Why are we here? Why do we exist as a group of tourism-oriented organizations here? So our brand purpose is to improve the quality of life, economic development, and with a big space in it, preservation of history in Jefferson County, and to provide a fun, authentic, unique tourist experience that is sustainable into the future. Our first focus when we look at our purpose is internal, and it should be. It should be about us in Madison, our economic development, our preservation of history, our quality of life here. These are the things that we really need to maintain in order to be able to present good experiences to people that visit here. And then it's to provide fun, authentic, unique tourist experiences that's external to the people that are coming here. And then brand equity. So as we talk about brand equity, it's really like, what do we own in the minds of consumers? Madison, Jefferson County is a fun place to be with a wide variety of entertainment, shopping, outdoor, and festival experiences. Madison and Jefferson County is one of the premier destinations for historic architectural preservation. So these are the things, that when you really focus down that are very unique about us. These are our equities. From here, we got into points of parity with our competitors. So that meaning, what are the things that we all provide that anyone going anywhere similar to Madison can count on. Quality lodging, festivals and restaurants, shopping and entertainment. But then we turn that upside down and we look at points of differentiation. What makes us different? We excel beyond others in the areas of music and historic preservation, outdoor environments and experiences, and a safe small town environment. You can come here and feel safe, no matter what it is that you're doing in Madison. So, as we look at all these things, we start to get an idea of who we are and what we're about, a foundation to work from. And as we look at what our messaging is going to be and who are the people that we're really focused on and who are we talking to, we call those personas. And that's kind of an evaluation of a type of person that we would want to market to and some information about where they are. All of those things have to be tested. Each time that we put a message together, it needs to be tested against each one of these virtues that we just went through for our brand, and they need to match. And if they don't, we need to get rid of them. And if they do, we keep them and we keep building on them. But this whole exercise up front about who we are and what we're about really is that marketing foundation that tells us, now where do we go? What do we say to people? And who do we talk to? Who's going to be interested in hearing our message? So we look at our brand character. We're kind, welcoming, assertive. You start to see some of these themes that again and again come back. We're established. The way that we should talk about Madison is that Madison is. Madison is. We've been here a long time. People know us. Jefferson County is about now. We are not a hidden gem, and we are not a best kept secret. A lot of times we're described that way, and that just is not so. And so when we look at, what is the vibe that we want to give when we're out there messaging and doing advertising and marketing? This is the point of view that we need to come from. We're an established, well-known, world-class small town that people want to visit, and so we want to drive that home in all of our messaging. Next, we've got our KPIs, and we talked a little bit about this at the beginning, but key performance indicators. These are really important because if you don't have a map, you don't really know where you're going to wind up at the end. And this gives you a roadmap for the different things that we would do in marketing and advertising, and really just all communications across the board for Madison and Jefferson County. And so, amazingly, there are 10 KPIs that we have here, and we didn't want to do more than 10 because it would get a little unwieldy at that point. But these we all agreed on. everybody in the room was able to come to a consensus about these are measurements that we really need to pay attention to. But not just what is the objective that we're trying to reach, but also how do we measure? What's the indicator? So this is a list that we came up with. So obviously, and very important to this board, is heads and beds, Airbnbs, B&Bs, and cabins. So we can see how we're doing on that objective as far as how well we're doing through looking at the innkeeper's tax and the money that's coming in. And we talked about QR codes and other avenues that we could use that would help us to connect people with either survey material or numbers along the way of visitors at different points, different venues around town. These would go back to probably the Visit Madison website, where they collect an enormous amount of data, and we can look at their data analytics for Google Analytics and see people that land on those landing pages and measure that way. That way we've got a number that we can deal with to see. We want to increase the number of day trippers. We have discussed the possibility of an app in the future that would not only present information to visitors, but also collect information from them along the way. So we can get it through surveys there. Clifty Falls has a lot of data through the state that we should be able to tap to look into day trippers. Heat mapping through the website to see where people's areas of interest are, and that's not just at Visit Madison, but on a number of the websites that we have for, say, Historic Madison or for the arts or any other organization, to be able to do heat mapping on those sites to see where people's area of interest is. We want to build revenue. We have access to an ongoing economic impact study that provides ongoing data that is existing through Visit Madison right now, but could be utilized better. And one of the things that we're going to talk about later is some key personnel that we may want to think about adding or outside resources. One of them would be somebody that can deal with data analytics on a large scale, to be able to put meaningful reports together on an ongoing basis about economic impact via revenue, and then breakdowns by restaurants, bars, hotels, etc., so that we can get a real feel for what the experience is that people are having when they're here. Where's their focus? What should we build on to increase? Investment in development. We know that a lot of what has been discussed with the board here has been kind of changing a little bit more to an investor point of view, where the board's resources and the bed taxes, the innkeeper's tax, is starting to finance more and more initiatives, either marketing or otherwise, to help build up the organizations in town that support tourism. So looking at both the economic impacts, looking at measurement goals versus outcomes of individual JCBT investments is going to be a good way to get to the bottom of that. So what did we invest in this? What was the result? Did we profit? Some of these can be profit centers that then you can roll back in and invest again into even more tourism-oriented initiatives. Food and beverage, obviously we can find that in the economic impact study data. Health of the visitor economy, spending, occupancy, etc. Again, economic impact and innkeeper's tax. And then we also talked about maybe some surveying within some of the hotels, either cards or things at checkout that we could do as questionnaires to help to gather some of that data to get a handle on. Customer satisfaction. Again, if we do this app, a lot of, surrounding some of the different areas that we might send somebody to. So, if the app landed somebody at the Jeremiah Sullivan House and they had a great experience there, at the end of that visit, before they move on to whatever the next thing is they're going to do in town, let's take a measurement. Let's see how they felt about it. Let's see what their satisfaction level was. And, obviously collecting information about other things that we can do or things we can do better. All of that's helpful. We can optimize based on that and always continue to get better. But we need the data to do it, right? So we need to be able to collect that to do it. Business retention and open hours, assign monitor of open and closed businesses against published hours. Really, this is the business open cop, right? We don't want people to come to Madison, especially on weekends, and feel like they're going to have this great experience with all these open shops and things that they can go do. and then find out that everybody's closed up or didn't bother to open that day for whatever reason. But to really encourage businesses to stay on these set hours and meet the expectations of the people coming to town, because that's what it's all about. Frequency of visits, we looked at a university study partnering with Hanover, who has been a really key and very interested member of the Alliance. They've really been willing to jump in. I know that Visit Madison is doing some things with them right now to try and pull those two communities together a little bit more. I think there's a lot that we can capitalize with the resources that they have, and then also with the manpower that they have in the form of interns and students that we can pull into some of our initiatives. And then primary visitor interest, again, app data, website surveys, that sort of thing, to be able to understand what the most common areas of interest are for visitors. So again, we can continue to optimize and capitalize on what those things are. So then, who are we going to talk to? So we got into persona development, and again, a lot of this came from BMI's data that they collect on the website. Geographically, it was kind of interesting because, I think a lot of us could predict who some of these personas are, how they fit. But the geography of it, I was a little bit surprised in the fact that a lot of that target audience that is going out to the BMI site, they're from north of Indianapolis and all the way to Chicago. Just a huge number of people that are engaged in that area. So geographically, I think there's some things that we can do to refocus a little bit on some of our efforts, because there's a huge pond up there that we maybe don't fish in as deeply as we could. So possibly some opportunities there. But so as we look at persona development, we're really talking about types of people, and we want to know what the background of these people are, what attracts them to Madison, and then obviously the geography of where we might find them. We would do further breakdowns on these to find out, well, where can we find them for advertising? So is there a social media audience for this thing? For Will and Winnebago, it is probably Facebook. For Gabby Girlfriend here, it's probably Instagram. And then others for different age and backgrounds of audiences that we want to reach out to. But we really need to understand who it is that our best opportunity to market to is, who's going to engage with our messaging, and then find the avenues to get to them. So we start with these two. We have Clark and Claire couple. They're 35 plus. They like that ease of trip planning, affordable lodging, arts and culture, local dining and shopping. They're probably within a 500-mile radius of Madison. Their profession varies. Some of them are retired. Others are, just becoming empty nesters and probably look a lot like me. And then Faye family, this is a younger set. These are people that are interested in a very safe experience for their family, a nice, easy trip, that they can take that's probably close by. They're only 200 miles or so away. This is a weekend with a young family where they can feel safe and have access to things that the kids are going to like, as well as the parents. And then Elise, event planner. So Elise, I think we've got a lot of opportunity here. I think VMI does a good job of reaching out to different organizations that may be having conventions or meetings or group engagements that we can do. But I think there's probably more traction to have here, and it's really worth exploring because we're not talking about just one family or a couple coming at this point. We're talking about a large group and obviously a lot more revenue associated with that when they do arrive. So an area that I think we can develop more. That brings us to our messaging. So finding consensus on messaging was a long process, and we went through many, hundreds of different ideas for what we could do. And we winnowed it all down through this big funnel and got to one that we could all agree on. And the thing about Good Times Are Calling is this idea that you can use it anywhere. So we got a really diverse group of organizations here, each representing tourism in some way. But this speaks to them all. It can stand alone, or it can work in conjunction with another tagline. So it's already being rolled out in a couple of places. You can see it on the right on the Visit Madison site, and you can see it on the left on the 3M site, M3 site. So on M3, it's being used with, you know, the Madison, Indiana's Music City line that they already have established. It's used as a standalone right now on Visit Madison, and it can apply to anything. I mean, it can apply to history, it can apply to arts, it can apply to entertainment, and, you know, and having fun in a bar, you know, anything in between. But the idea was to come up for this group with something that worked for everyone, and something that still had appeal. If we went back and we looked at all those values and all of the background that we did to establish the kind of messaging that would appeal to all of those audiences, this was the one that was working for us. So with brand messaging, I'm going to leave it there because I know you're drinking from a fire hose here that I'm just, yeah, please.
Is it calling or calling?
It's calling, and much discussion about that as well. And it started as Colin and became Colin. And honestly, the idea behind that was that it sounded a little bit more contemporary and phonetically, you know, more pleasing to some ears. Are there any other questions for my part of this? Because I'm going to turn it over to Michael here in just a minute.
Dan, thank you for all your time.
Oh, you bet. I was happy to do it. It was a lot of
Send us a
fun.
copy of that.
All right. I'm sorry?
You're going to give us a copy
Oh,
of
yes,
this?
yes. We'll both post that on the website and send it to you guys individually. So, yeah.
Now, will you come back to Madison now that you don't have a reason?
Well, I wasn't going to, but good times are calling. No.
You're welcome.
It can't get any more corny.
See how well that works? It's great. It's fantastic.
That was good. You liked it. You liked it.
Well, hi, everybody. Great to see you all. Thank you so much for, first of all, for the opportunity to do work in Madison and to work with, well, you're looking at the work right now. We have a wonderful group of people that have joined us, that have been working with us to really try to change the face of how we work together to improve tourism locally. Dan was focusing mostly on our branding, our marketing, and our messaging. What my job was to help to create a strategic vision for how we're going to partner together better. And you know, I have the great privilege of doing work all over the country and internationally. There's only one Jefferson County. Well, there's only one everywhere, but there's really only one Jefferson County. This is a truly, truly unique place. It attracted me, and I think it can attract many, many other people to not just experience the tourism amenities, but also that's sort of a hook to even becoming a local perhaps. And it's a real opportunity in front of us. I'm continuing the fire hose. I have a lot of information. I just wanted to say beforehand two things. First of all, I'm going to go through this relatively quickly. All of the information that we have is already posted on the website. Most of it is. We're going to put this presentation up there too. If you have any questions along the way, if I'm going too fast, please let me know. The other thing that I want to say is that the great thing about doing this work is that it's largely about compiling information. This is 100% coming from the voice of our group. And it's very much capturing the spirit of the meetings that we had and the conversations that we had. So this was a group effort. This was not just something that I put together. We had 5 major goals going in. First of all, we wanted to briefly review the findings from the original March 19, 2021 meeting. We started these meetings back up in August again, so it's been about the past 8 months. We wanted to clarify the why of the allied group. This is the key motivating principle of what draws people to the table. The interesting thing, we know an awful lot about organizational behavior. It's all about what happens when there's a boss. There's no boss in a community. We have to be intrinsically motivated to engage. And we wanted to understand what brings people to the table. Number 3, to map the current network and linkages of participants, their core competencies, and to identify potential gaps in the network that can inhibit action. We've done that. Number 4, to identify local opportunities for collective action and gaps and needs that can be filled by the collaboration. And finally, to develop useful terminology around investment in Madison's creative, tourism, and lifestyle-oriented assets. A lot of that overlapped with Dan's work. So we were really talking about how do we talk about ourselves, how can we communicate better. The key thing I want you to understand here is that the way we do our process is that we try to get away from just task development. We're getting away from the what and the how and focusing on who and why. Why people are there and who's at the table, because this is what fundamentally drives action on the ground. It's what we sometimes call the community capacity. It's our ability to handle our own affairs. We oftentimes hear about what we call development in the community. This is where we're actually just coming up with stuff to do and getting it done. That tends to follow development of the community. We're building, I hate to use this term, but we're building the machine that outputs all of this great stuff. New collaborations, new ideas, new opportunities, new partnerships. It's about building structure, and it's fundamentally, this is about relationships. So everything that I present here is kind of a clunky version of, again, what you see right here in front of you, which is a group of people really committed to this cause through these discussions. Some of our methods, I'll go through it very briefly. We had 8 meetings with key tourism stakeholders. We promised 6, we gave 8. We had extensive participation by MA, VMI, Hanover College, M3, Board of Tourism, HMI, Jefferson County Historic Society, the Chamber, Main Street, and Madison Travel Company. They were kind of a late add to the table. We sort of nudged them in because we were talking about them. We had several other people show up throughout the process, but these were our main participants. We had an effort to hold meeting in multiple places, both downtown, on the hilltop in Hanover, because this is a county initiative. It's not just about Madison. This is about the whole county, and the whole county is great. The door was always open to new participants, and it still is. Coffee and snacks were always provided. That gives us kind of a feeling like this is a community meeting. We could just sit around whiteboarding things. We didn't want to have that feeling. We wanted people to be creative and to feel comfortable. We did a lot of strategic exercises and discussions, gathered data, compiled it, and detailed reports are available at jeffersontourismalliance.com. The big question that we wanted to ask is, what can we do together that we cannot do individually? How can we be greater than the sum of our parts? So looking at local organizations in this way, we're beginning to see opportunities arise, because the idea here is not that everybody's got to get together and move in the same direction. The idea is, what do each of us do differently that can support each other? And there's a difference between everybody just going their own way, which is kind of what was happening, versus having the opportunity to get together and talk about strategic things. Everybody knows everybody in a small town, but there's a difference between that and actually having the opportunity to talk strategically. And this is what we oftentimes see in communities that are almost there. You know, they're talking, they know each other, they're talking to each other, but they're not having strategic conversations. Well, we had to start off with the most basic thing. What does everybody do anyway? and we started to talk about, we really realized that we don't always have a great idea of what is driving us to the table. We always like to start our conversations with, why are we here? As opposed to, what do we do? Because that really gets at the basic motivation of what's driving people into the process. This is gigantic, and I'm not going to read all of this. I encourage you to take a look at every single, these are our whys. This is what drove every single organization to the table. So for example, if you pick out HMI, recognizing the importance of architectural heritage to the future of our community is what they're passionate about, right? Madison Main Street, how to connect outside the historic district, branch out for tourism, strengthen the bridge between tourism partners, and keep momentum high. There are cheerleaders. We had, for example, the Madison Music Movement up there. Develop a single message that brings people to town. That was their idea. We want this to be a music thing. And this is what brought everyone to the table. We even had local commerce, sports, recreation, all involved. There were a lot of great motivations, and we use this as the basis for trying to make sure that we can see the synergies across these many different parts. Well, we wanted to start to catalyze this into a vision, and an exercise that I like to use is called a postcard from the future, where we're starting out with a postcard, and what you do is you give a description. It's like you're writing a postcard to a friend, except we're writing from Madison to a friend, or from Jefferson County to a friend somewhere else, 10 years into the future. And we're talking about Madison or Jefferson County or Hanover, as though we're there on, it's like we just live here and we're sending what are the kinds of things that people talk about? We got some really interesting themes here, and they actually surprised me a little bit. It's really interesting how historically grounded this community is. This is an all-American community. And remember, we're talking about into the future. We're not just talking about right now. It will be safe and secure. Music will serve as a tourism driver, and so will history. These two things are going to go together. Tourism will be a link to becoming a local. There's lots of postcard stories about, oh, you know, people were coming in as tourists and now they live here. That's a wonderful story. New amenities and tourism entrepreneurship. There's lots of people talked about the new amenities that were going to pop up around town. Oh, we've got cafes, we've got hotels, we've got all kinds of great stuff going on. Grocery stores came up. Culture as our best asset was a major theme. What really draws people here? It's our proactive attitude. It's diverse, it's hospitable. This is how Madison became Madison, and it continues into the future. Some people saw a car-free future, and people still saw a major role played by the natural amenities in the area. This is the vision that we see when we imagine and think about it in the future. I distilled it down to 5 key points. There were a lot of music and historic themes, a welcoming and hospitable culture that people want to be part of, walkable and bikeable across the county, a hotbed of creative amenities supporting the central theme of music, arts, and history, and a place where people feel safe and at home. This is sort of what drives us to the table as a group. This is where our fire is. And this is what excites the group. And this is something that I think we can build all sorts of ideas on these pillars here. So how can we partner best? How can we work together better? Well, what we needed to do was sort of map our network competencies. And the way that you do this is there are the things you are good at. There are the things that you are not so good at that you could probably get better at. And then there are things that no matter what you do, you're probably never going to be that great at. Like me and organization, and email. Not the best at these things, right? But that's the thing. Sometimes you can try to work on what we call your far weaknesses, but the best you'll ever do is get mediocre at them. What we can do much more effectively is to partner with people that are really great at the things you're not so great at. And this is where we can start to map competencies and see how our organizations are working together or failing to work together. So there's partnership potential. And I'm going to give you another horrendogram here in a second. Don't be too scared. This is just a little bit of our mapping of core competencies. It's available on the website. And the partnership potential, we've got our core strengths on one side, we've got our core weaknesses on the other, and we're trying to draw links across where people could be partnering. I was thinking we'll also draw the links of where people are currently partnering, but the truth is, it's not that people aren't partnering, we're not as strategic as we could be, and I think a lot of these links still have yet to be created and deepened. So we have a lot of partnership potential patterns here, and all of these, and by the way, these categories came from the group. This is really just compiling the group's data. It's not any kind of pre-existing rubric. You can see there's a lot of skills here. And what I did is I took the skills of each of the different organizations and I mapped them. And here we go. And I have to, sorry about that. Never bump the cord. So, apologies also to Kim, I'm using the outdated logo for the Arts Alliance. But you can see that we're all over the map a little bit, and some groups are better at things than others. You'll notice local commerce off to the side. There's such a diversity of local businesses that they sort of fill in a whole bunch of gaps across town. I want to talk about the orgs primarily for now, and then we'll keep moving forward. We have to recognize that there's also a lot of private partners that could be working with us in these spaces. Our connector organizations, Main Street, HMI, the Chamber, MA, and also VMI, thank you, excuse me. You're right here, my goodness. They have a real strength in this area, and they could be partnering better with organizations that, like Hanover College, that's sort of up in its own, it's in its own campus, quite literally. Or younger organizations like M3 that haven't really deepened their relationships. The idea here is to get these organizations partnering together to involve and connect new organizations with members and opportunities. We could be helping each other to build up membership and to really see crossovers. Placemaker organizations are the guardians of local history and culture. These organizations are the masters of experiential content. And the truth is, we've got, this is a core strength of Main Street, HMI, and also the Historical Society. They could be partnering very closely with local commerce to be able to enhance private sector offerings in new ways that really connect with the history and energy of the area. These are called closer organizations. We got a great one. Ma gets things done. They get grants written, get things out the door, help to really finalize and solidify a lot of things. They help push collaborative projects through to completion and mentor organizations in enacting their strategic vision. Organizations that could use a little bit of help with this because of capacity issues include VMI and the Chamber. So there's a real opportunity there for Ma to be able to serve as a closer in a way, or to be able to work together. Techie organizations, well, this is something that we're looking for right now, actually. We don't have a lot of organizations that are heavy in tech, but there might be local commerce opportunities of tech organizations or tech companies that can actually help to partner with those that are raising their hand, like HMI, and said, hey, we could use a little help. We could really, this is keeping good organizations with better things to do ahead of the technology curve. Makes a lot of sense. We're bridging a capacity gap here. It's not necessarily something, I'm not looking for things that cost a lot of money. I'm looking for real synergies here that can work out. Funder organizations, core strength, obviously JCBT. Has an opportunity to fund, support, and finance innovative projects and organizations. And that's the idea, to get innovative projects and partnerships the funding they need to launch. And there are a couple of organizations that really could use that right now. For example, MA, the Historical Society, and Main Street all are certainly dealing with funding issues and capacity issues. Engager organizations are really good at connecting organizations with great ideas, but they have limited working capacity with great ideas and that also have limited working capacity with volunteers, students, and potential supporters and collaborators. So this is something that the Chamber's really good at, and the Historical Society's really good at, especially with youth engagement. Ma could use some help with that, getting more people in the door, basically many hands make light work, and how to actually do that process. We've got marketer organizations. Hanover College, VMI, M3, they are doing fantastic work with marketing. And then there are some areas where we could be working on this. So, even JCBT could use a little bit of help with marketing and for people to understand what happens here, what happens in this board. HMI, the Historical Society. This is a way to share best practices on brand articulation, traditional and social media, and member recruitment and retention. Finally, planner organizations. We got Hanover College, VMI, and the Chamber are really good at planning things. M3, we're new, right? That's the kind of situation. We got a new organization on our hands here that's still getting up and running. And the idea is to assist in coordinating the internal functioning of the organization and find synergistic overlaps. That's our basic network map. This is where we could potentially be partnering more in the future and through better conversations. This is something that we can encourage. The question is, how do we get to action? Well, we worked with the group and we said, what are things that we can do together that are better than anything that we can do separately? And we started to develop 3 primary pillars of action: funding, communication, and partnership. Anything that contributes to one of these 3 pillars is an area that we can take action on that would help to enhance the entire group, the entire alliance, in terms of making life easier and also enhancing tourism. So we started to come up with some specific action items, and we developed a RAIL. This is a term I have to thank Todd Boone for, because it's an excellent term. It's a rolling action item list. He introduced me to that term. And this is a way of being able to keep track of what we're working on at the time, what its status is, and to also keep new things going on the agenda all the time. The key here is to develop habits of getting together and getting things done. And we came up with all kinds of really interesting ideas that are represented by partnerships across these different organizations. Some things that we discussed under a Main Street presence: we want to have in-person Main Street kiosks, East Main Street, West Main Street, and Hanover, where people can actually have a real Main Street presence there. They can learn about what's going on in that block, in that part of town, or up in Hanover. A digital monitor program where across town there will be synchronized digital monitors saying, hey, here's what's going on right now. Check out this, check out that. Take a look at this venue tonight. Take a look at this restaurant today. We've got a special over here. That kind of thing helps to coordinate and puts a very public face in it. It can be constantly updated. We're already taking action on several of these. Hanover College Connection, we're talking about having a heading to Hanover page on the VMI page where,
It's already there.
ta-da, check that one off. Great. A student loyalty marketing program where students can get more connected to local commerce, both in Madison and Hanover. Having a shuttle stop at the Shrewsbury House, that's something that is, we're talking through it, I think.
Trying some more.
We're trying some more, that's right, exactly. We'll see if it works, but being able to get students downtown, and also potentially having a historic museum summit with Hanover. And also we want to have a conversation between JCBT and maybe Hanover Student Life about what other kinds of opportunities, what ways can we connect tourism fundamentally to throughout the county and to the student population. In terms of data and communications, this might be one of the most important buckets here of action because communications are so important and it's really a representation of what we're doing together. We're developing currently a funding process, one that actually adds transparency to how people ask for funds from JCBT or can access funds from JCBT. We're currently working on that right now with Mom and the Historical Society. That's in progress. We have a VMI marketing process about how can VMI get the word out to everybody about what's going on, serving as a point person or a point organization. A block captain program, really innovative idea that every so often throughout town we're going to have one person that just lets other people know what's going on and finds out what their news is too, so they can centralize it and pass it back to marketing channels. Data communication and coordination, just generally talking through how we're going to communicate better and what media we're going to use. And then finally developing QR codes for special promotions, where you just walk around town, click it with your phone, you're immediately taken to a website that's going to get you a ticket, it's going to get you access, or it's going to get you information. Exciting. The county becomes a scavenger hunt, no matter where you go. And then of course Madison Travel Company coordination. How do we get Madison Travel Company involved? They were sort of a late entrant. We're interested in knowing what their role is going to be and how they would fit into this partnership effectively. And that's a conversation to have. We don't have the answers yet, so we're still working on that. All right, well, how do we keep this going? This is an ongoing, any kind of community development work is an ongoing, permanent process. It's something we want to keep up and make it habitual. So how do we keep it going? First of all, we need to keep it going. We need to make habits out of this. And there's been a lot of talk about getting together at future meetings, maybe every 2 to 3 months, having an opportunity to do this work, come together and share what we're doing together. The one rule we want to have is only talk about tourism. We get into that room, anybody's welcome, but we only want to talk about tourism. You can't talk about other stuff. This is a very, very high-functioning group. We like to create a 3-person alliance board, and it's not, we're not trying to create a formal organization here. We just want to have some governance to the group of folks that can sort of oversee things and provide stewardship and decision-making when that arises. Also, we want to link meetings, any meetings that we have, with social media accounts and share the good news of what's been happening for the past quarter, or the past 2 months, so everybody knows about it. Create a template report for spreading news. Maybe funnel this through VMI as the marketing arm of the Alliance and being able to get the word out. And finally, create a funding template for funds requests from JCBT. If we get a great idea and we want to have a unique partnership, how do we access those funds? How can we report to you and to ask you kindly for those funds, especially if we think it'll be a benefit? And to have a really transparent and open process around that. So the role of JCBT here is, since we're addressing the Board of Tourism directly, a lot of it has to do with funding great ideas, but it must be collaborative across organizations, businesses, and citizens, oriented towards tourism, and it can support organizations that already support tourism as well. We're trying to talk about the co-creation of a funding process, which is in progress. But the idea here is that you can almost be like an investor. Really investing in both organizations and also specific partnerships and ideas that can quite evidently raise the profile of tourism locally. Things that are easy wins for the community and for the county. I see this broken down into 2 parts, project funding and operations funding. Project funding would be short-term funding through a formalized application process. This is where people have a great collaborative idea. How can we access short-term funds? It's got to be tourism-oriented, has to be. Not everybody can, just local nonprofits can't just access this funding unless it's directly aimed at tourism. And it should represent inter-organizational partnerships and focus on novel offerings and filling service gaps. Operations funding is longer-term and ongoing investment in the member organizations of the Alliance. The idea is that we want to have, if we're promoting Jefferson County, we want to make sure that all the parts are working and that we have a good product too. So the idea here is that there would be disbursement to members of the Alliance. It still must be tourism oriented and intended to keep the gears turning and focusing on product excellence. What do these organizations need to make their element of what they bring to the table, whether it be music or art or architecture or nature or any of these things, what is going to provide an excellent product that people will want to see? Possible staffing and support. Right now there's already a VMI executive director search, and this can aid VMI in focusing on tourism promotion and social media support once that's filled. There is a potential for what we've been calling it a community concierge, but increasingly we're thinking this may not be a person, this might be a group effort, just an opportunity to work together to really create good, tight, open social media messaging that can keep organizations and businesses in the know of what's going on. Hey, we got a cruise ship showing up this week. Okay, everybody get ready. We could have specials, we could have promotions, we could try to find ways to really engage that organization. And also where people can look and see what's happening in a very coordinated way across the county. And perhaps a data analyst. This is something that could be outsourced. It's a shared service for Madison businesses and organizations to compile ongoing data on tourism. We already get some of that. Imagine if we could get it weekly. Imagine if we could know what's going on, what's creating bumps in our tourism. Not just that the numbers are going up and down, but we know what causes the numbers to go up and down and who's showing up to the table. So this person could coordinate with VMI, social media, to get the word out. That could be an internal position, one of an existing organization, or somebody that could be outsourced or hired for that position. We ended with a debrief meeting. We don't have to go through all of this, but I thought there were some wonderful quotes in here, and you're welcome to look at it later, or if you want me to focus on anything. I loved that folks were very honest about how they kind of distrusted the process at first, which is very common. It seems like it's very open, kind of like this would be easy work, but the truth is, when we stop just saying hi in the street and we really start to talk strategy and we start to talk about how we can work together, it brings to the surface a lot of the real ways that we may be walking past each other or talking past each other. And we wanted to really bridge those gaps. I was so happy to see that folks that came to the table really started to benefit from those conversations, I believe. Correct me if any of you think I'm wrong. I hope everybody had a good time with this. But a lot of it was also breaking down silos so that we could unify our message, talk to each other on a more regular basis, and really put some coordination behind tourism. And that started with a very, very human process of just setting up those discussions and recognizing that we all have agency when it comes to this question. Got one more slide of feedback. I love the first one. It was everything that it was intended to do, even when it got rocky sometimes. Anything worth doing is going to hit the rocks. And we worked through it. And we did. We didn't agree on everything. And I thought that was great. Some folks were happy with how it went. They want to see it going forward. A lot of folks wanted to keep up the momentum. And that's something we need to talk about, how we can do that. But I agree that this is something that has momentum now. And we're starting to see action items appear. So some recommendations and next steps would be having a facilitated alliance gathering every 2 to 3 months and sharing what we're hoping to do with each other. Focusing on the 3 pillars of action, again, funding, especially funding and communication right now. Those are the big ones at the moment. And also our partnerships, building those partnerships. We want to have ongoing management of the rail. What we have up there right now, that's just the beginning. Those are just the first easy little tasks that we can accomplish. We want things, action items to keep appearing and new ideas to keep happening. We want to have a total handoff to community management as quickly as possible. The idea that the Alliance is going to take this over, it's not going to require any facilitation anymore. It's just something that we do every 3 months. We just get together and it's done. Maybe that happens now. And finally, we want to finalize and approve the funding model, which is something we'll be bringing to JCBT once we're able to get that clarified and finished. That's all I have for you. I want to say what an incredible pleasure, and I'm addressing everybody here, what an incredible pleasure it has been to work with you. And I know this is just the beginning. I'm very, very excited about the potential that these partnerships have for the rest of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks. All right. Does anybody have any questions, or I can sit down and?
I'd just like David and address the board real quick. One is to thank again Michael and Dan and the board support for this. It started in March. You guys, a lot of you were at the meeting. I think the takeaway there was, hey, this is great to get everybody together, but one of the takeaways was we're not really talking as much as we thought we were, right? And then how do we keep that going? And the board last year, we had 3 big initiatives. One was the contract with VMI. Really, what's our mission statement as a board, and then how do we drive funding, not just operational support, like Michael pointed out. We weren't there last year, right? You guys are in a really good position, and one reason I wanted to come is just to hear the recap, and then 2 is to recommend to the board is think about how do you get, here's our operational costs. Curtis, you did the budget, which is exactly what we need to do, you needed to do. And then how much of that can be investment into the future, right? Operations versus R&D. What's our future state going to look like? I was so impressed with the group that's here. They did all the work. I came to a few of the meetings, and you're right. Sometimes it was, hey, it was this, and I think in the end, they're like, gosh, we have to keep talking about how we work together. John Stacer made a comment, and he's kind of quiet, HMI. And John goes, we meet we thought we had meetings like this before, but they were nothing like this, what came out of it. And I think the connector is, JCBT is the funding arm, but these are the heavy lifters. They're gonna be here over and over. The board's gonna change every year. May have some stability, but what this group can do is instead of fighting, I call it, it's kind of, hey, pick me, give me the money, right? So what they can do is as a group, the 18 or whatever, that could grow to 30, is they agree this is the best investment for Jefferson County moving forward. And then they're not fighting over, hey, I need money. And then maybe, VMI could expand to be a marketing arm in that shared services. And so I thought the exercise not the right word, the process that you guys put together, I think the stability of it is gonna be awesome, right? Just keep it going. So, I wish they'd got it done. We didn't start till August, so we're a little bit over, but I think moving forward, I would recommend to the board is, let's just don't take this day to the stop, keep it going.
So, you said it several times, and I'm just gonna ask you to elaborate on it. This is a beginning, not an end.
Right.
So, in order to keep it rolling, what's the facilitation for moving forward and the time plan?
Well, moving forward, I think it's helpful to have at least 1 or 2 more facilitated meetings. That would be, and with the idea that the folks that are going to take it over, and I hope that would be a rotating group of people. The folks that are going to take it over will have the opportunity to really kind of see how the meeting works. We're going to be working at a meta level, which means we're actually it's like training the trainer. You're actually working with the people that will run the meeting. How we want to go about that is really kind of a question. I'm certainly happy to help, but I also don't have to help. I'm happy to step back from this process entirely. I think there are also other people in this community that could help out with that. That would be excellent choices to stand up and do that. So I know that's kind of a non-answer. I don't really mean to do that. I'm submitting back to you for.
Next steps are kind of addressed in
Yeah.
the presentation too, that we're talking about every 2 months or so.
Right.
Getting this group back together.
That's right.
Keeping that rolling, you asked what's the timeline for that. Hopefully it's perpetual. Hopefully this group stays together as an alliance and they all work with each other and for each other into the future.
And I think part of the point of my question was, someone has to kind of take the lead, raise their hand and say, I've got it this month. And I guess that's a question I'm putting out to the group.
We have it this month.
There we go.
All right.
Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome. I had already actually kind of addressed that to you on my way out the last time, and to you.
There we go.
Okay,
We'll take it next.
great.
You know, this is how it's gonna work.
Yeah,
That's great.
I agree.
Yeah, And when
I
we talk
agree.
about funding, I just wanna reiterate to the board, and Todd, you had said this about, you know, funding an idea for all of these guys, not just a group. You know, so, you know, whether it be kiosks, I think that we've talked about that, kiosks at certain areas, okay, so do we fund that? You know, and who will it benefit?
Or it could be an app, right? You know, everybody's
Right,
got a phone right
absolutely.
there, but those are the things, that's the investment, right? That's beyond, well, let's make sure we get VMI funded, right? This is where, that's an investment. And Wendy, you're right, and then in the board, that's why you're organized. This is your all's decision to say, is that a good investment or not?
And then but as their group, as the Alliance group, that's a decision they need to come up with and
Right.
come to us.
And one
And
of
it
the-
may not be a specific organization, I mean, I think we'd have to pick an organization to.
One of the things that we did talk about, but I know again, drinking from a fire hose here, it's hard to absorb everything, but one of the things that we are working on right now as part of the rail is to put together basically a form that anyone that wants to be funded for something can use in this organization to present then to you. Present inside of the alliance first, make sure that everybody's on board, there's consensus that this is the right way to go with what we want to do. But then have it laid out so that each time that this is given to you, it's in the same format. So it levels the playing field. So you're always getting the same information that you need about what it is, who will it impact, what is the cost going to be, etc. In the same format every time, so that it's easy for you to compare things when you're deciding what you want to invest in.
And so Wendy, to your point, JCBT already has a form similar to that, right? And I think that's your all's decision to keep that. What they're talking about is internally to vote.
Internally, right.
And so that they can share. So if Ma comes up and says, hey, I've got this great idea, then internally it looks the same. And then the group can make a decision and says, yes, then let's go back to JCBT. Each individual group, if Regatta still wants to come next year and ask for money, then they absolutely let them keep doing that. This is more about a project that, and then your example was perfect because, you know, Ma couldn't ask for that by themselves. VMI couldn't ask for a kiosk across the whole city. Madison Main Street, they may have a lot of weight in that, but they wouldn't pull it off by themselves. But if all 18, or let's just say a group of 25 groups said, we want that across the city, and then it came back to you with the, hey, it would cost $75,000 to write this app. Or maybe it's already an app and it costs $100 a month, I don't know. But that group comes back to you, it's not an individual contributor.
And then they decide who's going to do it.
They decide how.
Yeah,
And they manage it.
they manage it.
And present milestones back to you, so that you see progress and understand what's going on.
So has that list of needs been established? The app, parking signs on Main Street, kiosks, QR codes, is that list been established or not?
We have ideas right now, and that's part of what Michael shared with you,
Yeah.
are the things that we're considering at this point.
Yeah, that's
And
fine.
some of them are more forward than others, some of them, like the kiosks or the monitors around town. We've actually got some pricing together to see what some of those things might cost. So they're just at different levels right now and things that we might expand on in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a board, that would be probably the best place for us to start to figure out. I mean, as we did the parking study for the city, we realized there's no sign that says parking lot this way or, you know, visitor parking here. So we know there's a need for signs down there. We still haven't got a cost of what that looks like. So, you know, for us to make those decisions and give this board, this group, an opportunity to prioritize those, I mean, we need to see what they look like so then we can encourage, hey, let's knock this one off the list. We have the funding for it.
Well, and I can certainly see things coming from the other direction, where you're like, you know, the JCPT had this idea. We want to pitch it back to you guys, see what you think about it, see what kind of resources you have that can surround it and make it happen. And So it can go in this direction too.
And I think it's as we've always talked about, what's our best idea for return on investment? What's our biggest weakness right now as a visitor experience? You know, what's our need? What's the highest priority of all of those things that we're looking for?
Is the idea about the money always project related, or is there some thought about how to support these organizations at a fundamental level, at the bottom level?
I think Michael hit on that with the shared services. That was one of the things that we didn't necessarily know. And Ron, it's a good question, because I think what you saw was, and what I witnessed as I watched, is each group is always fighting for money. So 30% of their time is out trying to get money. Then they want to take it, and then, as Kim always talks, if they want that diamond that they want to polish, then that's number two, because hey, we got some money, what we're going to do with it. And then it's usually spent on some type of marketing, right? So the shared services model is maybe that VMI becomes their experts in marketing. Maybe you put one or two more people just in VMI to support the other groups. I think you don't want to go out and say, okay, we're going to have fund somebody at Ma, we're going to have fund somebody at Madison Main Street. You put that group together. That way, if one leaves, you got cross brand, you got talent acquisition, because camaraderie, cross train, all that's in one spot. And then let these other groups just go. They know, Kim knows arts better than Main Street does. Let them be out, hey, what's the next generation going to look like? And then let that shared services, whatever it is, let's just say if it was VMI, they manage the marketing. They put the content together, they go to Sarah. Sarah, again, configures it. That's the most, that can go to Instagram, it can go to Facebook, but that's what the shared services model looks like.
And they each have their own audiences, so
Right.
if they're sharing social media posts across all these organizations, rather than just Visit Madison or Historic Madison or whoever, putting something out there as a single message to only their audience, now you've got a much bigger distribution.
It's working. I'm telling you, they're already talking. I mean, things that we thought were just very simple. The communication among the team is they are cross-pollinating much more than I've ever seen.
I'd like to, can I add to this conversation? One thing I would like y'all to do is to start thinking about the partner organizations, the alliance organizations, as producing the product of tourism. So Madison Main Street program is the commercial district. The park is the nature piece. Madison Area Arts Alliance, MA, you've heard that, is arts and culture. We manage the cultural district on a state level. You've got M3, which is music. So we're producing, each organization is producing the product that VMI so beautifully promotes. And you guys support that model. But what so often happens is that the organizations are nonprofit, and we all work really, really hard on our mission and our vision. We have our board of directors, we have our committees, and so forth, making the product. But if we're not underpinned somehow to sustain the product, that's where a kiosk won't matter. And that's where I think if we look at it with the big view above and say the most important things in our community are the built environment, the natural environment, and the people. That's what generates our tourism. And the people is music and art and historic properties and so forth. Nature is the river, state park, and all those wonderful amenities that we have. So the product sometimes needs attention. We can get project money all day long. We can write grants all day long. But keeping our doors open when tourists are here is a struggle for nonprofits that do not have the larger budgets to be able to do that. So I would ask y'all to start thinking maybe on a broader up here, as well as down there, those two pieces that Michael presented, the project funding and the operations funding, because it's extremely fun and worthy, and this is an economic piece. Tourism is an industry here, and we are producing a product. We're trying to, And that's where it's really beautiful. This has been a great process. We've become colleagues. All of our organizations respect each other, and it's really been a pleasure.
Well, one thing too,
We appreciate that.
I don't think we said it, like Taylor represents business, right? So she went out to all the businesses. She would send them a note every month. She'd go visit them and say, what else would you like for us to represent? Because in the end, we gotta keep the businesses open too, right? The tourism is to make sure that people are in the hotels, make sure people are going to the shops, they're going to the restaurants. And what Kim says is they come here because of all these really cool things. But in the end, we gotta keep the businesses going
That's right.
too. And I think they could probably say the same thing, that a lot of these businesses are struggling just to keep their doors open. They don't have time to push out that Facebook page. And that's next generation, right? And that's where Curtis, I think, you and Trevor, I mean, Wendy, David, you guys thought about it last year was, how do we build our coffers up so that we can do these really cool things to help these smaller groups to really push the message out?
Well, and to what Kim is saying, and I think I agree 100% with how you're presenting that and your thoughts on that. And I think in the last 28 months that some of us have been on this board, the intent was to re-energize what JCBT does and not just invest in one single source, but to really open it up and figure out where are we missing, what other opportunities do we have. We know that VMI does this and they do this well, but who else can do this, or who else can they work with to help with that? And that's something that as a board, that was never thought of before. It was just, hey, the money comes in and the money goes out, and we just kind of keep doing that same thing. And as we realized, well, we're missing out on this, and we're missing out on this opportunity and this one. And that's where I think Todd and Trevor went with this opportunity for consulting with these guys. And now, again, as we determine where to start and where to invest, I mean, that's ultimately going to come back from that group, not only in the physical things, but definitely in the operational side of things.
Well, years it's been that VMI has been the place, and it still very much is. The world has changed, and VMI is still here and doing a fantastic job, and we're seeing opportunities that we've never had in Madison before. Arts and culture and music is higher than it's ever been. Your budget's different than it's ever been, and these guys are still plugging. And so with the growth of that organization and how stable it is, this is just shoring up forever with what we're talking about. You know, nobody's really saying that the money should not go anywhere it's going. It should very much stay where it is. But there's other things that we can do if we're supported, and it's just a really smart way to do it.
I'm sorry.
And I think that's what ultimately why we made some of the decisions and the conversations we're at is, I mean, we don't want anybody to be left out or not funded or anything like that. But how do we enhance that funding opportunity for everybody so we can get the biggest bang for our buck? And that was, again, something that we never really looked at. It was, you know, whatever's here is what we got, and we spend it in one place and we're done. And that just wasn't I mean, it's tough for them, it's tough for all of the other groups involved. And I think moving forward, obviously there's been positive out of this that's already developed partnerships that we all really thought were already happening and really never were.
I think Todd,
So,
okay.
go ahead. No, you're
I
good.
don't agree with that.
I agree with
Yeah,
that statement.
informally we've heard.
Everybody was working together, but now.
But I don't
you know,
think we all knew
and
who was doing what. That's why we were
Well,
started out that way to
I
figure
agree
out.
that the board, some of the people on the Board of Tourism may not have known, but we all knew. We were all working together, but this exercise brought it to a different level, right?
I think it did, and I think it brought it to a more, we were casually doing it for years. We held partner meetings and those kinds of things, and we all talked because we're in the trenches every day. You know, we're on the street doing this stuff. And, but I didn't think there was any kind of silos or anything like that. We were all working together, but now we clearly understand mission, vision, and strategy, and what we do on a daily basis, kind of more, because, you know, some of these folks are new, some of them have not been here very long, some of the organizations have new staff. I think John and I are the old people at the table, and, you know, Sarah's been here a long time, and it was just a way for us to get to know each other and to really talk business together. And that, yeah, so I agree. It's not that we didn't know, we were just not really forced under Michael and Danny's arm to do it and to talk about, stuff, so.
Well, and just to build on that, so I had to redevelop what tours look like at Historic Madison. They start next week for the record, so if I look tired for the next 3 weeks, that would be why. But because of these meetings, I considered what our average person should be doing. So I don't have tours that take up your whole day. I want you to go eat lunch. I want you to go shopping at McWiggins and go to Scarlet Begonia and go all those places. And I want you to go to Lanier and I want you to go to the History Center. So the most tours I have in one day is 4. Because I want you to have that full Madison complete experience. And I probably would have never gotten there if not through all these meetings. I really sat down and thought about it. And I'm going to do tours 4 days a week because that's really about all I can handle and we'll see how that goes. And we're going to see if that system can really bring us into the 21st century, bring us through a COVID purge of chaos of just epic proportions into something new that can really help our community thrive and survive. Because I know that's what all my partners want. They want us to be successful and I want them to be successful. And I think I've made a plan that may achieve that. But I would have never gotten there without this. Never would have happened. Woohoo! That's right.
That's right.
Kim, can I try to restate what I think you said? This is probably obvious.
I'm Southern, so you can restate it in a
What
clear
I think I
way.
heard you say is, not only do you need help with projects, you need help paying the rent. And all the costs that are associated with keeping your organization together. Is that right?
Overhead.
Yeah, I mean, yes, sir. Staffing, a one-person shop is really hard to, and I'm not talking about just our organization.
Right.
There are others that are 1.5 shops all over town. And, if we are Tourism 365, then it's hard when you have one person or a half-time staff person to really get in the game and keep open Saturdays and Sundays when people are
Like,
everywhere.
we're splitting the person between Ma and M3 to do some heavy lifting, because we're all volunteers, but we're funding it. We couldn't afford a full-time person, but we could afford a person to do X amount of projects, and then we funded it. We didn't come to JCBT or any government.
We did too.
And then, so they had some, and we put them together, and okay, now we got enough to maybe, eventually it'd be great, if people thought that music's making a difference in town, then why would you not want to get that out more and cleaner and better? Right, so that,
We're doing things internally together and trying really hard, but yes, sir, that is true. I mean, it just, to have a great product, we really need, everybody needs a little bit of help. We work really hard. We're not asking at all to do the intensity that VMI. This is not that ask. But our nonprofits really, really need some shoring up. And I'm not speaking for anyone. It's as a group. And it could be a bigger discussion at some point.
There's one term that I really like seeing that was sprinkled throughout the presentation very eloquently, and that's sustainability. Having been in the travel industry for a long time, that's a term that really resonates in this day and era. And I think that's, of so many of these points, go back to that. It's resilience, it's creativity, respect of traditions, all those things that are encompassed by Madison. So I think that's something to really focus on. I don't know that it's Madison sustainability, that's what our new, we like, what we've already stated, but I think it's important to focus on that because I think that really cuts across a lot of demographics, economics, geography, etc.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Thank you.
Great job.
Yep, thank you for the.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So next on the agenda is partnerships and projects. We have some from one group, from Canaan Restoration Council Incorporated, Canaan Fall Festival.
Sure. So that group has reached, the Canaan Fall Festival's reached out asking for some funding to expand their event to include music and renting of a stage, add some activities for kids. So the first request was $2,000 to help with those structure and those types of needs, the inflatables, the fencing, the stage rental. They have a budget for their music and that event for $7,500, so they're asking for just short of a third of that. And their other requests that they filled out just as, again, as we're talking about this, they really need some help with marketing of their event, help with their Facebook page. They know that that's where most of their advertising comes from and is. So they've asked for, maybe help with a website, but they don't really think they need a website, but they thought that might be a topic of conversation. So they were not able to come to the meeting, so I think they'll be here for the May meeting. The marketing side of it definitely needs some more conversation. The project funding that they're asking for, I think, is pretty straightforward on the application if you looked at it.
Do you know the date of their?
September 15th and 16th.
That's the ability. Canaan Fall Festival.
All the same weekend?
No.
Oh.
It's just like weekend after
Yeah.
weekend.
Gotcha.
3 weeks running.
Yeah.
And I see that they wanted to buy a stage rather than renting, so that they could.
I think
promote
they've been
that.
back and forth on that. I think they have again, I'm not sure if they plan on renting or they've talked to, I believe, even the city about possibly renting it or seeing if it's available for rent until they figure out. Because if they buy one, then they're going to get back into storage and set up and tear down. And I think they're trying to look for some help that, maybe it's something they can count on is using the city stage every year. I don't know.
So one of the things that I'll switch my hats, the commissioners are doing are trying to help these festivals, because 2020 was erased from their fundraising. So I'm gonna reach out to, is Cheryl?
Cheryl is that's who contacted me. Cheryl was gonna come to the next meeting with, I believe Nancy, is their secretary and treasurer.
So things like that, because we've,
Mhm.
Chelsea Jubilee, they have some electrical work they need to do on their physical facilities. So we're gonna help them there. Neville's Grove has same kind of deal, bathroom and kitchen stuff. So we've been trying to work with them. So let me reach out to them and see what things we can take care of there. I mean,
Yeah, and I recommended, on the music side of things, they could reach out to M3 to have them have some guidance on what they're doing as far as music, and then on the marketing side, I encourage them to reach out to VMI and figure out what.
I talked to him for 5 minutes today.
So what they could help with, as opposed to just, us giving them money and they figure out what to do with the marketing dollars, so. But
Is this a long-term or a long-standing festival?
I think it's one of the longest ones
Been
in
around
the
for many
state.
years.
And it's the last Pony Express event that even happens, is my understanding, right? Like that was-
the hundreds of years kind of
Yeah.
deal with all three of those. I think Neville's Grove is at
It's
130 something.
It's really probably more of a community event out there in their area, but they want to expand it, make it more of a, to include more regional people from the way they're wanting to add music and some food trucks and different things like that.
I mean, something probably didn't go to them as many as I should when I was living here, but when you run for office, you go to these, and all these people that are coming back, well, I live in Florida now, but I'm coming back for this because I haven't missed it in so many years. So you do get some, a lot of it is local folks, but you do get a fair number that are coming back because that's what they do on that weekend in September, is they're back from wherever they've moved to do those, so.
I spoke to 2 lifelong attendees, and asked them about how many people actually come and stay, you know, like in hotels. And they laughed at me and said, we stay at our mom and dad's. We don't.
Yeah, that's what
We
I
don't
figured in
stay in a
campers
hotel.
and, yeah.
So it's on the board, must be tourism oriented as your recommendation from your specialists and people in the field, and this isn't really a tourism related event. We do help them out a little bit, but it
We have
doesn't put heads in beds.
And she
Does
alluded
it?
to that as well. I asked the same question, just even.
So we're only gonna invest in heads and beds events?
Well,
Is
you
that what
should-
you're saying?
You should always invest in things that put money into what you do, not reinvesting in your own business. It doesn't
Okay.
help with sustainability of what you're doing.
All right. I mean, one of the festivals you wanted to keep in it because you wanted to keep festival in the contract was Canaan Fall Festival, and now it's like, well, no, we don't
No,
want
we
to.
do.
No, that's fine. I
VMI
understand.
does help them and
You-
assist a little bit.
You put a little
but-
bit on. You left off Neville's Grove on your list as well. So, anyway, yeah. Thank you for your
What
input.
list?
Hmm?
There's a list of festivals? Those are in there.
So the other list the paper list that we had that came out earlier.
The very, very first one was the one that went into the, that I had to do and get done in August of 2021. That had to go into the 2020.
That's fine. I'm not trying to make a big deal. Thank you for your input. We're going to go on. We'll talk to them. Like I said, the county has already set aside some money for these. We'll see what we can do. So, but it's not fair for these guys who have tried to keep it together on a shoestring budget for hundreds of years to say, well, sorry, you don't do any tourism, so we're not going to even consider you.
I'm not saying it's not a worthwhile cause, but I'm saying your title is Jefferson County Board of Tourism, so that comes first and foremost. We do try to help them out a little bit to assist them because they would like to keep that event going. But as far as it ranking high on tourism, it's just not.
All right, next on the agenda is the bylaws. I don't know if anyone had a chance to look over them.
I haven't.
You have one? All right, so let's next month. Just look over them, send me your comments. It just gives us some guidelines on setting things up. That's all I really want to do, and then I'll throw. We can look at the strategic goals we've been handed, look at those that we had before, and come up with something like that. All right, so I'm okay with that. So Randy Fry next month?
He'll be here next month,
Okay.
yep, to kind of guide us on that. And I believe you had some conversation with the county council.
Not yet, but I will. I'm supposed to meet with him.
Okay.
So.
What's the skinny?
So it requires our local leaders at the state level to be a part of the process to get it approved. So we need Randy's input and guidance on,
So it goes through the legislature?
it's my understanding, their signatures required on the documents to,
That's part of Indiana code, so
Mhm.
that's what.
Do you have any guidance on how much, how fast?
he sent me a couple codes, I'll forward those to you, and you're welcome to, that's how I learned that the county council was involved in the commissioners and Randy and those guys. County council. I'll send that to you.
Okay, great.
I'm guessing it's not gonna move fast, because I don't know that anything moves fast, but,
It can move faster if you push, right?
Sure, but I think starting it now,
Yeah.
because it'll be their next session, and if kind of the groundwork is laid,
Yeah.
council's ready.
and there was several raised in 20 and 21, so I know it's not,
Yeah.
yeah,
And you said about 35 years it's been the same?
yeah, 19, yeah. And we haven't changed it since it started in 1980, whatever that.
It's one of the easiest things, well, it's not easy, but it's one of the most obvious things we can do to support tourism.
Yeah.
Just to get, just to get these Fed taxes up as high as we can get them.
Easy.
Yeah.
From the new member with his back to the. All right.
Remember who pays the Fed tax, just remember who
Well,
pays
I
it.
understand, but
I think as a board, I mean, I think we're all in line with looking at an increase. I don't think there's any doubt that we are in favor of it. Obviously, as we just talked about, opportunities for more funding and investment, so we've got to.
Yeah. Good, good.
any new business?
I think so.
So the next meeting is not, no, it's the fourth Monday, sorry. No problem there. I would look at September's meeting, not that we have to do it today, but just look and see. I know I am gonna be out of town that week, so either moving it a week earlier or a week later. Look at your calendars and see what works best, and then we can decide at the next meeting, but I just wanna let people know, the 26th of September, I'm gonna be, I think I'm gonna be in Oregon, or thereabouts.
I'll be going on June 27th.
We'll go. We don't wanna go later, cause that's the 4th of July.
Oh, yeah.
So,
No, I'll just miss that one.
we just do it that way?
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, and if nothing else works, you can go ahead, I don't have to be at the meeting, so if the 26th is the date that works best, then,
Sure.
so, I just wanted to bring that up, okay. Anybody in the audience?
I just wanted to say one thing to Phil Mullins. I know that, I'm one of the reunion chairs this fall for homecoming at Hanover. And one of the things that we're really emphasizing is to make sure we have a much fuller section, not just where to get a room. We're gonna have a bridge walk, we'll have everybody in the classes are invited to that. We'll probably have a Mad Paddle gathering, and certainly one, because we have a lot of people staying at the Fairfield. So I think we're, and I think, I can't speak for everybody at the college, but I can tell you from alumni relations, that makes a difference. And again, there's a lot of multipliers from that, so we're definitely giving that small, but one of those fine brush strokes you add to keep people interested in coming back. Thank you.
Anybody else?
So, next meeting, we're gonna do these bylaws.
Yes, we are.
I've been dragging these around now.
I know, but that's all right, I'm not gonna push them through without people working, I just want people.
Well, give us firm instruction at this time.
All right, so
Supposed
we-
to be ready.
Have your motion ready.
Yeah.
Next meeting, okay, all right.
All right.
I'll motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
There we go. Thank you for coming.
Good to see you.